Shalom, shalom, family, and aloha from Maui, Hawaii. This is your sister Chaya with a Melchizedek News special report. I pray that you all are well. I wanted to bring some information that I've been looking into as a way to keep us all informed. I think these are some things that we all need to know, especially with everything that's going on with all of these fires and state of emergencies being declared in many states. And so I want to bring out some information that is vital so that we all know our rights and so forth. So I'm going to put up my disclaimer because it's important. This is all for fair use. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video disc under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 USC 107. So with that being said, family, I want to share a little video, first of all, with some of the coverage that has come out of California with these catastrophic fires. It's a lot going on, and I'm here in Maui, Brother Yosef and we have experienced firsthand catastrophic circumstances because we saw what happened here in Lahaina. And so I want to give my brothers and sisters some information that's empowering and, things that maybe people aren't aware of that, maybe we weren't taught these things in school or you haven't looked into. But I do want you to be aware about state of emergencies and what those actually mean, as well as martial law, because I don't really believe that the world understands the hour that we're in and what's in front of us. Um, things look a little different in 2025, and the people don't really see that the reality is they are under siege. And so with that being said, I'm going to start with this information. This is a video that I thought was interesting. This was from Joe Rogan's show, I guess his podcast that he has. And it was some months ago, and it was interesting how he predicted this eerie warning about some Los Angeles fires. And he said, this was information that was given to him. But I just want you to hear what he says here. This was some information on the New York Post. So let's go ahead and check this out, as well as a few other videos, because I really want to help you see how these fires are impacting everyone and what's currently going on and what's actually coming as well.
Joe Rogan's chilling wildfire warnings have resurfaced as Los Angeles battles devastating blazes that have displaced 100,000 residents, claimed 5 lives, and destroyed thousands of structures. Clips from Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, show the comedian and UFC commentator repeatedly predicting a catastrophic fire scenario. Speaking with Sam Morrill in July, Rogan recalled being evacuated 3 times while living in LA, with 2 homes near his burning to the ground. Rogan, eerily wearing a Los Angeles Fire Department shirt at the time, recounted a firefighter's haunting warning. One day, it's just going to be the right wind and the fire is going to start in the right place and burn through LA all the way to the ocean. There's not a effing thing we can do about it. This wasn't a one-time.
Yeah, that's like a real eerie message, like he said, oh, a little birdie told me about these fires that are going to happen in LA one day. So I'm going to show some more footage before I bring this documentation up for us all to be aware of. Let's check it out.
Now let's go to Cana with how some people were forced to leave their homes with little more than the clothes on their backs. Good morning again, Cana.
Yeah, Robin, good morning again. A terrifying scene. They described this fire as a monster here. And I heard from people, sadly, as I step over, this basketball hoop. This is what's left of this house. I've heard from people who, every single person they know that lives in Pacific Palisades has lost their home. It's been utterly devastating. And as Matt pointed out, we don't know the full scope just yet. But what we're hearing from authorities this morning is that there's an entirely new concern, because there are some homes left standing at the end of this road, and they're telling me now they're worried about looting.
Looting. Isn't that interesting? Sounds familiar, and we know that occurs during martial law. I want you to hear some testimony from people that were directly affected, and pay attention, about how this thing went down and how people had to leave their homes, and also how they are not being able to go back to their homes to assess the damages and what has taken place. And that's why I wanted to read this information, so that we are all aware about state of emergency and martial law and how different things look in 2025. But let's go to the footage from the brother here that lost everything.
It felt like you were in a scene of a volcano movie. You saw embers flying everywhere, wind gushing at 90 miles per hour, going left and right. It was like fire bombs everywhere, and it was just exploding and burning. So Philip comes by, flashing a flashlight, telling me, "Oh, we gotta go, we need to get out of here." So packed up the family, left. When we were leaving, I noticed that my sister's car was still in front of the house. The next day, come back, her car is still sitting there, so I had to go back to figure out if she was still there. My cousin, brave as he is, said, "I'll go and see what's going on," and he took a shovel, climbed over the debris, and started moving stuff around. And from there, he saw like a hip bone, and just that's when he knew that she was there.
These fires are catastrophic, and it's a time to have compassion and empathy for our brothers and sisters and what people are going through. It's a time to reserve judgment, and even speak on things as a karma. It's like I've listened to several platforms and talk about karma on people, and like this is an act of God doing these things, and that's not true, brothers and sisters. God doesn't punish his children in these ways. These are wicked leaders of the world who have weaponized weather against mankind, and they've had this technology a long time, and they are the ones that are doing these things, manipulating some things. And the Heavenly Father, he is allowing it to teach us some very valuable lessons, and also to humble us, but to really open our eyes as to the evil that exists in this world. Those fires were really hot, extremely hot. That's why it's really an unnatural thing. I'm going to show you this footage real quick, brothers and sisters, and this is also what we saw here in the Lahaina fire.
Check this out. This was part of the car. Turned into liquid. Then it just hardened once it cooled. Jesus.
Yes. It doesn't look like a wildfire to me. And I just watched some footage with President Trump over in California going through the area, and he said it didn't look like anything natural to him either. Yeah, we all can see that, Mr. President. You're not telling us nothing that, those that have eyes to see and ears to hear are not witnessing. I think a lot of people in the world are waking up to the truth. Also, the reason why I wanted to bring this information out is so many people that have been displaced, thousands of people. And like I said, people are not being allowed to go back to their homes. And that's something really important that I want to bring out with this information, because that's what we saw here with the military presence that was here in Lahaina. And that presence was, in Lahaina for almost a year. So, I want to explain martial law and how it looks in 2025 to you all. But here's a footage from a young lady that had to leave her home. Listen to what she said. She said up to 2 weeks she can't go back to her place.
A humbling experience. Nothing prepared you for something like this. I am just grateful that my house didn't burn down. But I can't go back there. And they're saying that I can't go back for maybe another 10 to 14. Maybe another 10 to 14. They're not looking at me. Could be. I can't go back home for another 10 to 14 days. So that's crazy, because we're like rotating 4 or 5 outfits. You know what I mean? Just continuing to rotate them. But like I said, I'm just super grateful that our house is still intact. Everything around us is burned down. So you can understand why I do not want to live there. I think I'm just over it. I think with my robbery that happened 2 years ago, having to just like abruptly move, and then the fires happening, I'm just ready to get out of LA. It's time to just refresh. I really want to like cut my rent in half so that I...
Yes, it is a time that a lot of people are reassessing things in their lives. It's really a time to get your spiritual houses in order. As I say, it's time to get right and get real with the Most High for everyone. But it's interesting, the young woman, her name is Joy Chavez. She was mentioning that they're saying she couldn't go back to her place of residence for almost 2 weeks, and she said her place didn't burn down. Isn't that interesting? So one more footage out of Altadena, because a lot of people didn't know that this was that within that town there was a prominent it's black area, and that was kind of like historic. I wasn't aware of that, but I just want you to listen to this footage right here.
I grew up there. And Altadena always had this pride of place within a Black community because it was always this affluent Black area, but not the type of affluency that necessarily comes from everybody in the entertainment industry. Another huge misconception about everybody who may have property in California, that somehow you have to be adjacent to the entertainment industry. We're talking about families that work those good old 30-year jobs, those good old government jobs. And you roll through Altadena as a Black person, and there's this sense of pride that you feel because all these Black people own these beautiful homes, and they pass them down generation after generation. And I cannot help but to think about the similarity in New Orleans East. When Hurricane Katrina happened, that was another affluent Black area that is just gone. And so the things that I'm concerned about, what I saw that happen during Hurricane Katrina, first of all, there are going to be insurance issues. There are going to be loopholes. Did you have this type of insurance? I mean, there was a family in Katrina that the insurance companies contested they didn't have insurance to cover the second floor of their home, flood insurance. So there's going to be all this stuff you're going to have to deal with. And then there's going to be people seeing opportunity, wanting to come in and buy land from people cheaply because they're vulnerable and they're desperate and they're hurting. So you're going to see that. And then, unfortunately, you're going to see a community that's going to try and come back together. And I hope and pray that Altadena is able to do that. But what I've seen is that it is nearly impossible to bring back that specialness and that uniqueness in a natural disaster situation like this.
So that video right there was courtesy of Roland Martin, and I'm glad that he shared that information. And the lady, she gave out some good background on that Altadena, California. I was totally unaware of just the history on that area and that town. So, as you see, so many people have been affected, all walks of life, all colors of people and nationalities and lifestyles. So, many children have been affected by this. We really need to, put ourselves in other people's shoes and really just think about, the devastation that has occurred and that's currently occurring. So much going on. And not to mention, you know, um, South Carolina, North Carolina, what they experienced with the Hurricane Helene. So let's just continue to keep people on our prayers. I know even here in Maui, a lot of people are still displaced. It's pretty much a year and a half later since the Lahaina fire, and there are many people. A lot of people had to relocate to other areas. We will be seeing the consequences of this thing, the effects of this for many years to come. So something to think about. So let me read just information that I have on the screen. I just want to empower you with knowledge. That's what we do here on the Melchizedek Network. And so for some people, they may find this to be beneficial. I know I did, because these are just things that I was not clear on. And these are things that are really happening right before us. So it's important that we get understanding. I'm sorry if you can't see that little black box, but I'm going to go ahead and read that information. In regards to a state of emergency, I want you to be clear, because you're really hearing that a lot in multiple states. State of emergency was declared. State of emergency is declared. This state issued another state of emergency. So much. What is that really about? So overview, and this is courtesy of Google and AI. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree. I just do research, is what Sister Chaya does. I'm always hitting the books and doing my own research and studying to show thyself, myself approved. So it says a state of emergency is a situation in which a government is empowered to put through policies that it would normally not be permitted to do. Very important. For the safety and the protection of its citizens. Also, a state of emergency allows a government to temporarily expand its powers to manage a crisis, usually by restricting certain civil liberties. Very important, brothers and sisters, because as we saw in the video clips there, a lot of people were saying they can't go back to their homes to get any belongings to see, assess the damage that's been done to their homes and so forth. They can't even return to the neighborhoods. So it says restricting certain civil liberties while still maintaining civilian control, whereas martial law involves the military taking over civilian governance, fully suspending civil rights, and enforcing laws through military authority, typically only implemented in extreme situations like widespread civil unrest or invasion. Also want to share these key differences. Level of military involvement. It says during a state of emergency, the military may assist with disaster relief, but civilian authorities remain in charge, while martial law places full military control over a region, replacing civilian government. Very important there. Civil rights limitations. A state of emergency may temporarily restrict certain freedoms. That's why it's so important to know our rights, like curfews, while martial law can suspend nearly all civil rights. Brothers and sisters, these are things that we need to know right now. Martial law is a term that refers to the imposition of military control over a civilian population. It is typically used in times of emergency or crisis, such as during a natural disaster, or what we're seeing here, unnatural disasters, civil unrest, or war. The purpose of martial law is to maintain order and security and to ensure that essential services continue to function. If you are writing about martial law, it's important to use the term correctly and in the appropriate context. All right, let's go to the next. Martial law. Martial law involves the temporary suspension, once again, of military authority for civilian rule and is usually invoked in time of war, rebellion, or natural disasters. And we're seeing a lot of natural disasters. That's why people can't go to their homes. Like I said, martial law in 2025 looks a little different, but we got natural disasters everywhere and emergencies being declared. I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail. When martial law is in effect, the military commander of an area or country has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws. That's why people got to put their trust in the Most High right now and not in man. There's a lot of things we do not have control over, brothers and sisters. What happens to police during martial law? That's a question that is very important. When martial law is in effect, it displaces the civilian government with military rule, military commanders, not elected officials. Makes laws, it says soldiers, not local police, enforces laws, and ordinary citizens accused of defying martial law might face military tribunals instead of civilian court. That's interesting. That information is brought to us by the criminaldefenselawyer.com. Also, has the U.S. ever been in martial law? This was an interesting fact. In 1878, Congress passed the Posse Comitatus Act, which forbids U.S. military involvement in domestic law enforcement without congressional approval. Throughout history, martial law has been imposed at least 68 times in limited, usually local areas of the United States. And that's brought to us. That source is Wikipedia. Now I want to read something, and I've highlighted some things that stuck out to me in the yellow. This article was very good, very detailed, from Brennan Center for Justice. It says martial law explained. And this is so important that we are empowered with knowledge in this hour to know what is going on around us, what we can do, what we can't, and things to, even help us plan if we can and prepare. And then even when these things happen around us, because we never know when a fire flood situation could be at the door, or it's your city that they're declaring a, national, emergency. So, or this martial law type of situation. So I'm going to read here where it says, the law surrounding the concept, this is regarding martial law, the law surrounding the concept is complicated and unsettled. Congress should pass legislation that better defines its scope. Here in the yellow, it says martial law has been declared more than 60 times in U.S. history, mostly by state and local officials. However, the concept has no established definition. Isn't that interesting? The limited Supreme Court precedent on martial law is old, vague, and inconsistent. No federal statute defines what the term actually means. All right, that's important, brothers and sisters. As a result, the exact scope and limits of martial law are dangerously unclear. Congress and state legislatures must enact new laws that better define them. What is martial law? Again, in the yellow. Let's hear it from the Brennan Law Firm. In the United States, martial law usually refers to a power that in an emergency allows the military to take the place of the civilian government and exercise jurisdiction over civilians in a particular area. But martial law has no established definition because across history, different people have used the term to describe a wide variety of actions, practices, or roles for the military. The law governing it is complicated and unsettled, and as a result, the concept has never been well understood. Isn't that interesting? Can the US president declare martial law? That's a good question. The Supreme Court has never clearly stated whether the federal government has the power to declare martial law. And why not? That's what I'm asking. These things should be right in black and white and clear, and so clear that we all understand, right, brothers and sisters? Going to go down a little bit more. These laws in the yellow, these laws are so comprehensive that Congress has occupied the field. Meaning that if the president were to use the military domestically in a way that Congress has not affirmatively authorized, such as by declaring martial law, it would effectively be against Congress's will. Second, and more specifically, the Posse Comitatus Act makes it illegal for federal military forces to participate in civilian law enforcement activities, the exact sort of activities that are associated with martial law, unless Congress has provided express authorization. In short, brothers and sisters, Congress has placed clear and wide-ranging restrictions on the president's ability to use the military domestically. I think people need to know that. A presidential declaration of martial law would violate these rules. The Constitution does not grant the president conclusive and preclusive power over the issue of domestic military deployment. And I wanted to read that because I'm like, just because they want to do something doesn't mean they can. But they're doing a lot of things, right now, being overbearing with how they're treating people. Another question, what has Congress said about martial law? There are no existing federal statutes that authorize the president to declare martial law. Isn't that interesting? However, while Congress has passed a multitude of laws related to domestic military deployment, these laws do not only create restrictions. Congress has also given the president considerable authority to use troops domestically in ways short of martial law, like declaring these emergencies, these state of emergencies. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. I'm going to read that again. Congress has also given the president considerable authority to use troops domestically in ways short of martial law. The Insurrection Act and potentially Title 32 as well allow the president to deploy the military to assist civilian authorities with law enforcement activities virtually whenever and wherever the president chooses. In some scenarios, a deployment of troops under these statutes might appear similar to a declaration of martial law. Yes, brothers and sisters. We're seeing a lot right now. Hope your eyes are open. A little bit more in the yellow. Does the Constitution apply under martial law? Yes. The federal government is bound at all times by the Constitution. even under martial law. The government cannot suspend or violate constitutional rights. Additionally, martial law declarations are subject to judicial review. For example, if the federal government places a state or territory under martial law, individuals detained by the military can ask a federal court to order their release by petitioning for the writ of habeas corpus. Subsequently, if a court considers the petition, it can decide whether the declaration of martial law was constitutional in the first place. That's why it's important to have knowledge. It's very empowering. Can states declare martial law? Good question. The Supreme Court has held that individual states have the power to declare martial law, and such a declaration is valid simply if it is authorized by the Constitution or laws of the state. States have declared martial law far more frequently than the federal government. So states have a lot of power. Isn't that interesting, brothers and sisters? However, even under martial law, state officials are bound both by the U.S. Constitution and by valid federal laws. Additionally, individuals can challenge a state declaration of martial law by seeking injunctive relief in federal court. And if they are detained, they can petition for the writ of habeas corpus. Sorry if I mispronounced that. But yes, brothers and sisters, important information for us all to know, with so many state of emergencies being declared in different states. We need to know our rights, and just, understand that the government just can't do what they want, even though they think they can. But the more knowledge that we have, the more empowering we become, and at least be informed and aware, and so that we can talk to our families and just be educated on things, because we want to have this and know these things. So I just wanted to bring that to you. As I said, it's a Melchizedek News special report that I thought was just some things that we need to know, especially with these fires, because I do believe that we are going to see more fires and more state of emergencies being declared. And just because you're looking at California now doesn't mean that that may not be at your doorstep. So it's a time to be vigilant rather. Yes, proactive, prepared, pray. And again, get real and get right with the Most High. That's the hour that we're in. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining me. And Sister Chaya will see you soon. As always, here on the Melchizedek Network, peace, love, unity, and respect for all people. That's right, for all people. You all have a good one. Shalom.